In this video, we're going to learn about how to perform calculations with simple interest. This is part of the red unit, so we're going to color code red. When you borrow money, you have to pay interest on the loan. Simple interest is when you only pay interest on the amount of money that you borrow. So you're not paying interest on interest. You're only paying interest on the money that you're actually borrowing. The formula for simple interest is I equals P times R times T, or I equals PRT. I stands for interest, and this is the amount of interest paid measured in dollars. The P stands for the amount of principal. This is the amount of money that's actually borrowed, so how much you take out a loan for. The R is the interest rate, and it's usually given to us as a percent, but we'll need to change it to a decimal. And T is the amount of time in years that you're going to take to pay back that loan. So, for example, here, when you're given time in months or days, you must convert it to years. In example 1, Mary borrowed $12,354 to buy a car. The loan was for 3 years at an annual interest rate of 7.5%. What is the amount of interest Mary paid? What is the maturity value of the loan? So the I in this case is the interest. We don't know what that is. That's what we're looking for in this problem. The P is the amount of principal. This is the amount that Mary borrowed. Mary borrowed $12,354. R is the interest rate, which in this case is 7.5%, but we'll need to convert that to a decimal. So I'll move the decimal place 2 places to the left, so I have 0.075. And T is the amount of time in years. The loan was for 3 years. So T is equal to 3. We're going to plug into the formula I equals PRT. We don't know what the I is. That's our question mark, so we're going to leave that as I. P is 12,354. R is the interest rate, which is 0.075. And T is the amount of time, which is 3 years. We take the product of all of those numbers, so 12,354 times 0.075 times 3 gives us an interest amount of $2,779.65. So that is what is the amount of interest, $2,779.65. The maturity amount of the loan is how much Mary will actually pay for her car. So you have to take the principal amount and you have to add to it the interest amount in order to get the total amount of money that Mary will actually have to pay. So I'm going to take $12,354 and I'm adding to that $2,779.65. So the maturity value of the loan, if I add those together, I'm going to end up with $15,133.65. So notice when you take out a loan and you have to pay interest, you end up paying more in the long run. And that'll become very important to you as you go further and further in your high school career and start thinking about college, how much money you have to borrow to go to college and how much interest you're going to end up paying. All right, example number 2. Nancy Williams borrowed $4,325 to buy furniture for her office. The loan was for 6 months at an annual interest rate of 9%. What is the amount of interest Nancy paid, and what is the maturity value of the loan? So, we don't know the interest. That's what we're looking for. P is principal. That's the amount that she borrowed, $4,325. R is the interest rate of 9%, or 0.09. And T is the amount of time, which is 6 months. Remember, we have to convert time to years. So 6 months is half a year, or 0.5 years. Okay, same formula. I equals PRT. Interest, we don't know, so that's still an I. Principal, is $4,325. Rate of 9%, 0.09. And the amount of time is half a year, 0.5. Multiply those all together, 4,325 times 0.09 times 0.5, and we end up with $194.625. Now money only has two decimal places, so we would never see something for 0.625, so we need to round. So the amount of interest will be $194.63. The 5 here makes the 2 round up. And when you're rounding, you only round the number right next to the 5. You don't have to round the 7 up either. So it's just going to stay 6 here, and the 2 is going to go to a 3. So that's the amount of interest. And again, the maturity value, that's your principal plus your interest. So it's how much you're going to actually end up paying altogether, in this case for the furniture. So you'll take $4,325 and you're going to add to that $194.63. So we're going to add 4,325 and we end up with $4,519.63 for the maturity value. Okay, example number 3. Joseph Roberts borrowed $553 for 3 years. He paid $132.72 in simple interest. What is the annual rate? So this time we don't know what the rate is. We have to find the rate. We know what the principal is. That's $553. That's the amount he borrowed. We know what the time is. It's 3 years. And we know how much he paid in interest. So it was $132.72. So we can plug in all of the pieces. $132.72 is equal to P, which is 553. We don't know what R is, so we leave that as R, and T is equal to 3 years. We can use commutative property here and rearrange this equation so the variable's at the end. So we have $132.72 is equal to 553 times 3 times R. Just a little bit helpful there to rearrange that equation. Again, that's commutative property, says I can do that. I can now simplify this equation. I can multiply those two things together. 553 times 3. So I'm going to have $132.72 is equal to 1,659 times R. And once I've done that, I can drop the parentheses. Now I have a one-step equation that I can solve. So notice I have a coefficient and a variable. I see multiplication here. So I'm going to use division. I'm going to divide both sides by 1,659. Those two will cancel. So I have 132.72 divided by 1,659. And I end up with 0.08 is equal to R. So my interest rate is 0.08, and if I change that to a percent, my interest rate will be 8%. Last example, example 4. Yu Chen borrowed some money from the bank at an 11% annual rate for 5 years. She paid $1,375 in interest. How much money did she borrow? So let's look at what we know. We know that she had an 11% annual rate. And if we change that to a decimal, it's 0.11. We know she borrowed the amount of money for 5 years, so the time is 5 years. She paid $1,375 in interest. And we want to know how much did she borrow. So we don't know what the principal is. We want to know what she borrowed. So I can use my same formula, I equals PRT, and I can plug in the pieces. The interest is $1,375. Principal, that's what we don't know. Rate is 0.11, and the amount of time is 5 years. I can rearrange my equation to put the variable at the end. So 1,375 is equal to 0.11 times 5 times P. Again, commutative property, multiplication says I can rearrange. I can now simplify my equation. So I have 1,375 is equal to 0.11 times 5. So that gives me 0.55p. So I have an equation here, C multiplication, so I can use division. Divide both sides by 0.55. So 1,375 divided by 0.55, and I have 2,500. So, in this case, Yu Chen borrowed $2,500. This is the final answer to that question.